Thank you so much for being here today. Today's event is being recorded. It'll be available to you soon on Icana's YouTube and website in the next few short days. This patient education series is brought to you by Icana Health. Icana is a learning science company unlocking health literacy for patients and kidney care teams. Our evidence-based, delivery-focused learning tools are designed to tackle the toughest challenges in understanding and navigating your care journey. We hold this monthly patient education series to give a platform for our CKD community to engage with us. My name is Caroline Webb. I am a certified nephrology nurse with experience working as a kidney disease case manager in the hospital as a dialysis nurse and in peritoneal dialysis. So I'm very excited to be here with you. This mini session is coming just in time for Thanksgiving. Today, we're going to talk about the 3-step approach to staying healthy, ways to modify holiday menus to be a little bit more kidney friendly. We're going to promote healthy habits during the holidays and create a list of activities to try to keep you moving during this season. At the end, I'm excited to answer questions, so feel free to type them in the comment section at any time. Last month, we had an amazing discussion with Rich Wood about his 3-step approach to nutrition. If you haven't seen that conversation already, make sure you go check it out. It's available on Icana's YouTube channel now. I had a great time talking with him, and he gave us some really amazing insights. So his 3-step approach starts with knowing yourself, and I kind of want to tie that into the holidays. So knowing yourself includes, where do you struggle with holiday meals? It takes a lot of self-reflection to answer some of these questions, but they're a great place to start. So what are your nutrition goals based on the discussions with your doctors, the lab results you've seen, maybe a nutritionist you'd have the opportunity to speak with, but what are your personal nutrition goals? And then knowing what you do really well. What are you proud of? What do you do really well in a holiday season or at parties, or how do you, what are some of the best parts of your nutrition plan? Next is thinking in patterns. So when you have a bad day or a bad meal or a bad snack, it happens to all of us. Don't give up. It's not a bad everything. It's just one bad thing. Get right back on it and keep continuing in a good direction. The second one is keeping sight of your nutrition North Star during the holidays. So Rich talked a little bit about that North Star, but what is the health goal that motivates you, and what are you working towards? And then continuing your fitness patterns throughout the holiday rush. You know, if you've started a good walking routine or you've started something really good, don't give up. Keep going through the holidays. Don't take off this season. You're already in a good path. And then being prepared. Be ready to travel to gatherings. Bring a homemade salad dressing or travel with your Mrs. Dash bottle. You know, be prepared to hit the road with good nutrition. And then have recipes and ingredients ready to go. Plan out your recipes and grocery shop when you're not feeling overwhelmed, when you have the time to really look at labels and be a present for that activity. And have strategies to deal with distractions. Rich talked about those, but there's distractions in everything that we do and little obstacles. So have a strategy to overcome those in your personal choices. So food is celebration, and it's an important part of bringing people together, which is what this time of the year is all about. Managing your nutrition is challenging throughout the year, but it can be especially challenging during the holidays, and it can be especially challenging for people with kidney disease. So what are some of your specific challenges? It's a good foundation for this conversation. Is it sodium? Is it potassium that you need to work on? Is it phosphorus? It could be fluid. Some people don't get enough fluid, or some people need to work on decreasing the amount of fluid that they're taking in. Also proteins, and for those who are diabetic, sugars and carbohydrates. That may sound like a lot, and probably all of it doesn't apply to each individual. That's why it's so important to talk with your doctor and know which of those is important for you, or which one of those might be your nutrition goal. So I'm going to bring it back to Rich's 3-step approach. First, knowing yourself. So knowing what foods are usually at your holiday table. That's a good place to start. What are your favorite foods? That's a really important place to start. We want you to have all those things that make you happy, that make you feel nostalgic. So knowing what your favorite foods are and what dishes are hard to resist. So again, goes back to your favorites, but which ones do you just really need to have a bite of every Thanksgiving? And then our thinking in patterns. So thinking about maybe the salt-free seasonings we usually use, or some of the things that you incorporate throughout the whole year that you can bring into this season. And being prepared. So limiting to maybe small portions of things that you must have, just being prepared to maybe only have a little bit of that, or bringing a kidney-friendly dish to your family gathering or friends gathering or wherever you're going. Communicating with those friends and family. If you can't bring it for yourself, or if they want to be part of this with you, communicating what would be helpful for you, or what you're working on and what your nutrition North Star is, so that they can be a part of that. So to our main dish. So for a lot of us, that's going to be turkey. For other people, it's not, and that's totally fine. I think you can use a lot of these things that we talk about, no matter which protein or what main dish you would like to use. But buying natural, fresh, or frozen is going to be better than having something that's pre-seasoned or pre-basted for you. If you're looking at turkeys, something that's already done for you and sounds so convenient at the grocery store can be loaded with sodium. So better to do it on your own, buy something that's fresh or frozen, without seasonings. And then preparing, if it's a turkey, with that low salt or no salt rub, or a low salt broth. Also sodium-free seasonings, Mrs. Dash is the most popular, but there are very many of them, so to choose from. And that can be used instead of table salt or instead of some of the other rubs that are available on the market. Paying attention again to your portion size. So say your doctors ask you to limit protein for these main dishes. Traditionally, these are going to be protein. So you may need to have just one serving, which for most of us looks like a deck of cards or maybe the size of your fist. Those are usually references I hear for a portion of meat. Salty condiments like gravies and mustards, pickles, maybe salad dressings, those can be really high in sodium, so it's best to avoid those. The side dishes. There are so many to choose from, and I encourage you, if there's something that you like, to look for a kidney-friendly recipe. There's lots of online resources. We're also going to share a PDF or a sheet for you with some recipes that we've put together. And there's a good stuffing, a cranberry stuffing on there, and a really festive salad. But anything that you're making, you're going to want, again, fresh or frozen vegetables. When we look at canned products, a lot of times those are high in sodium. They need to be shelf stable for a long period of time. And a lot of times that means adding salt. And then specifically for my friends who are avoiding potassium, potatoes are such a big portion of our side dishes here in America traditionally with Thanksgiving. So there is a good way to reduce some of that potassium that we find in potatoes. Generally, potatoes are very high in potassium, but you can limit it by this method. So you cut your potatoes into small pieces. You can thinly slice them or grate them. And if you boil them for about 10 minutes in a large pot of water, they can reduce the potassium by at least half of the amount. So they're still going to have potassium in them, but certainly boiling them in these small pieces will help a lot with reducing it, and can be a better option for everybody who's looking to avoid that. So dessert, another great part of any good family gathering. There are so many good dessert recipes, but there'll be a cherry berry pie recipe on the sheet that's provided to you. And Generally, if you look for something with a lot of whole grains, like a crumble, that's a good place to start. Again, making it yourself instead of buying it at the store will make a huge difference. You can choose yourself then how much sugar is going into it, maybe what kind of sweetener that you're using. So you can choose a sugar alternative, Splenda, many, many options there. And then you can use great fruits like apples, cranberries, cherries, blackberries that have natural sugars in them. So maybe you don't have to add so much to make it to your liking. But it's one day a year, Thanksgiving is anyways. And so if you have a little dessert at the end of the day, back to Rich's point where it's not the end of the world. It's one snack, one meal, that kind of thing. So having a little grace with yourself is important too. And then beverages. I know drinks are a part of our family gatherings. And there's lots of festive ideas out there. If you're watching your fluid intake, drinking from a small glass, maybe one that's decorative or that brings you joy, in some way festive, is a good way to limit your fluid intake. If you have a small glass, you're not taking in quite as much, but you're participating, which is wonderful. Frozen cranberries and sparkling water, that's a no sugar, very low sugar option. And it looks festive, it's fun to drink. So that's an option too. Or simply adding a cinnamon stick or a fun garnish like rosemary can elevate a really simple sparkling water or whatever you like to drink that's low sugar. And it can add something kind of more exciting and more holiday. As far as alcohol, you want to make sure you're talking with your doctor about something, if that's something that you should be partaking in, or maybe how much. That's going to vary for everyone, but certainly is a conversation you should have with your doctor. All right. Well, mental health is incredibly important this time of year. It's important all of the time, but particularly in the holidays, things can get chaotic. So I think breathing exercises, that's pretty easy to find on the internet, but those are helpful. Meditating, journaling, if that's something that you're interested in. Those can be good self-care, self-reflective times to kind of bring down the chaos of the holiday season. One of my favorite grounding tools for an overwhelming or anxious time is called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. It was shared with me by a therapist a few years ago, and I think it's really a wonderful tool if you're having just a really chaotic moment to kind of bring you back to the present and really be helpful. So it works by isolating each one of your senses, and it helps you to observe kind of the things around you. Before you begin, you always want to take some good deep breaths and try to slow your heart rate. You don't want to rush this exercise. It's intended to help you become grounded and work on your anxiety. So this is how the 5-4-3-2-1 comes in. First, you're going to focus on 5 things that you can see around you. So you pick out 5 things that you can see. And then you do 4 things that you can touch and focused on the textures and just really making yourself present. 3 things that you can hear. So just taking in your surroundings and bringing you back to the moment. 2 things that you can smell. And then finally, 1 thing that you can taste. And just isolating those senses, like I said before, can just be calming in the moment. So I wanted to share that with you because it works well for me. I would also say avoiding social media. I know a new term is doom scrolling, where we just get stuck on our phones looking at all of this that's going on in the world. So, limiting your intake of social media or maybe the news if those are triggering things for you. And then also avoiding overcommitting to activities, keeping time for some self-care. If you need time to recharge your batteries, it's important to take that time and just focus on you. I know the holidays can be overwhelming, so we don't want to leave ourselves out. All right, and this goes in conjunction with both nutrition and mental health, staying active, good for both of those things. So continuing your walking or workout habits that you've been working on throughout the year is so important. A lot of us, we get excited about the things that are coming up, and that's totally fine, but we don't want to lose good habits that we already have. So if that means taking a walk with a family member, playing a round of golf with somebody you want to catch up with, or, incorporating family or friends or whoever you're spending time with into those activities, you're essentially killing two birds with one stone, as they say. So you're getting your physical activity and your family time at the same time. So that might be a good option for you. Avoid starting new intense workouts though. So if this isn't something that you've done before and you're suddenly going to take it up with a family member that's in town, run it by your doctor if it's something that's high intensity or may cause an injury. If you haven't been running 5Ks for the past year or so, don't take up the turkey trot and start running. Maybe walk, maybe do something a little lower key. But I would really love to start answering any questions. So if there are any questions, please drop them in that Q&A. Take the time to type those in. I had seen one question about whether or not you're allowed to have beer with Thanksgiving dinner. And I think I had discussed before with alcohol, it's a really important thing to bring up with your doctors. Beer is also high in phosphorus. So like we talked about, if one of those nutrition points that you're working on happens to be phosphorus, beer is certainly not a great option for that. So it's just having a good, important conversation with your doctor, and certainly portion control there too as well. You don't want to have more than one or two beverages when it comes to beer at a time in a sitting. All right, where can we find more breathing exercises? Is the 5-4-3-2-1 on your YouTube or site? The 5-4-3-2-1 exercise will be available as a short on our YouTube page. You can also look for breathing exercises or other anxiety tools on YouTube, or follow social media, mental health professional. If you have an in-person mental health professional, there's certainly a wealth of knowledge with anxiety reducing tools and tricks. So reach out to them for sure. But I hope you'll try the 5-4-3-2-1. I find it helpful. We had a question about whether which fruits and vegetables are good for specifically kidney disease. And that's a difficult question because generally fruits and vegetables are very healthy. So it will depend on which nutrients you're trying to avoid or maybe limit. Citrus fruits in particular, things like avocado, they tend to be very high in potassium. So when we think about bananas, for sure, high in potassium, those kinds of things. So if potassium is something that you're working on specifically, those might not be a great option for you. However, if you don't have a limit, those are healthy options. So it becomes a little bit more complicated. Just knowing your personal nutrition goals is important. But certainly getting natural sugars from things like fruit and in our desserts and things are much better than all the additive or processed sugars. So fruits and vegetables are definitely our friend overall. You might just have to find the particular ones that work best for your specific diet needs. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in quite yet. So if you do have any, I know my contact information is available. So thank you everyone for taking the time to be here, asking good questions. I hope you found this information helpful and will help guide you through this holiday season. The handout for the kidney-friendly recipes that I mentioned throughout will be provided to you after this webinar, and they can be found on Icana's page. So that's go.icana.health. Feel free to send me an email too if you think of any other questions after this. My email is caroline@icana.health. And until we see you again, or until our next webinar, we hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy your turkey day. So thank you guys so much for being here.